Do you press the gas pedal and your car revs up, but it does not move the way it should? Does it jerk, vibrate, go into limp mode, or feel like it has lost power? A lot of people immediately think the entire transmission needs to be replaced, but with CVT transmissions, the problem is not always the whole gearbox. Sometimes the issue can be caused by the wrong fluid, low hydraulic pressure, bad sensors, stuck solenoids, a worn valve body, a clogged cooler, or even a missing calibration. In this video, I'm going to explain the most common CVT transmission problems, how to diagnose them, and what tests you should perform before condemning the transmission. First, we need to understand something important. A CVT transmission does not work like a conventional automatic transmission. Instead of using fixed gears like first, second, or third gear, it uses two variable pulleys and a metal belt or chain that continuously changes the gear ratio. That is why when a CVT is working correctly, acceleration feels smooth and linear. But when something starts to fail, the symptoms can easily be confused with an engine problem, a sensor issue, or even a weak fuel pump. One of the most common CVT problems is slipping. The driver presses the accelerator, the engine RPM goes up, but the vehicle does not respond with power. In this case, the first thing you need to check is the level and condition of the CVT fluid. This is critical because CVT transmissions do not use just any ATF fluid. They require specific CVT fluid. If someone installed the wrong fluid, the belt can slip, the pulleys can wear out, and hydraulic pressure can be affected. The basic test is to check the fluid level using the correct manufacturer procedure. In many vehicles, this must be done with the transmission at a specific temperature and the engine running. You also need to check the color and smell of the fluid. If the fluid is very dark, smells burned, or has metal particles, that is a sign of internal wear. If there's too much metal debris on the transmission pan magnet, there could be damage to the pulleys, belt, bearings, or oil pump. Another very common issue in CVT transmissions is jerking, vibration, or shuddering during acceleration. This can be caused by low hydraulic pressure, valve body wear, stuck solenoids, contaminated fluid, or problems with the torque converter. To diagnose this correctly, it is not enough to just drive the car and say the transmission is bad. You need to connect a scan tool and check for trouble codes in the transmission control module. Codes related to pressure, solenoids, incorrect ratio, temperature, or slipping are very important clues. With the scan tool, you should also look at live data, for example, CVT fluid temperature, desired line pressure, actual line pressure, pulley position, input speed, output speed, engine RPM, and slip percentage. If the computer is commanding a certain pressure, but the actual pressure does not respond, there may be a problem with the pressure control solenoid, valve body, internal pump, or hydraulic leaks. Another important failure is limp mode. In this case, the vehicle may lose power, limit engine RPM, or refuse to go above a certain speed. This happens because the transmission module detects a condition that could damage the transmission, so it protects the system. One very common cause is overheating. CVT transmissions generate a lot of internal friction, and if the cooler is clogged, the radiator is dirty, the fluid is old, or the fluid level is low, the temperature can rise too much. To test this, you should drive the vehicle with the scan tool connected and monitor the CVT fluid temperature. If the temperature rises too quickly or stays too high, you need to inspect the transmission cooling system. On some vehicles, the cooler is built into the radiator, while others use an external heat exchanger. If there's a restriction, the fluid will not cool properly, and the transmission may go into protection mode. Sensor problems are also very common. A CVT depends heavily on the input speed sensor and output speed sensor. If one of these sensors fails, the computer cannot correctly calculate the transmission ratio. The symptoms may include jerking, loss of power, limp mode, incorrect ratio codes, or harsh simulated shifts. The test can be done by checking the signal with a scan tool, multimeter, or oscilloscope. On the scan tool, both speed readings should make sense with vehicle movement. If one speed stays at 0, cuts out, or shows strange values, you need to check the sensor, wiring, power supply, ground, and signal wire. Another critical area is the valve body. In many CVT transmissions, the solenoids control the pressure that clamps the pulleys and regulates internal movement. If a solenoid sticks because of dirt or wear, the transmission may slip, slam, lose power, or respond slowly. A basic test is to measure solenoid resistance with a multimeter and compare it with manufacturer specifications. But be careful, a solenoid can test good in ohms and still fail mechanically when it is operating with hot fluid. That is why active tests with a scan tool are also important when the equipment allows it. The internal oil pump can also cause serious problems. If the pump is worn or there are internal leaks, the pressure drops and the belt cannot clamp properly against the pulleys. This causes slipping and accelerated wear. The best test is to measure hydraulic pressure with a pressure gauge at the test port if the transmission has one. You compare pressure in park, drive, reverse, and during acceleration. If pressure is low, you need to inspect the pump, filter, valve body, pressure solenoid, or internal wear. One problem many people overlook is calibration or relearning. After replacing the fluid, valve body, TCM, solenoids, or transmission, some CVT units require an adaptive procedure with a scan tool. If this is not done, the transmission may still have jerking, slow response, or learning-related codes. That is why you should always verify whether the manufacturer requires adaptive values to be cleared, a relearn procedure, pressure calibration, or a software update. Now, when it comes to solutions, if the problem is incorrect or degraded fluid, you must use original CVT fluid or a high-quality equivalent, replace the filter if applicable, and clean the transmission pan. But if there is a lot of metal inside, don't expect a simple fluid change to fix the transmission. Too much metal usually means internal wear. If the problem is related to sensors, always check the wiring before replacing parts. If the issue is in the solenoids or valve body, the valve body may be repaired or replaced, but you must make sure there is no internal mechanical damage. And if the belt, chain, or pulleys are damaged, then the transmission usually needs a major repair or replacement. A proper road test is also very important. You should test the vehicle cold and hot, accelerate lightly and aggressively, check reverse, take off from a complete stop, vibrations, whining noises, delayed engagement, and highway behavior. Many CVT transmissions fail more when the fluid gets hot, so testing the car for only 5 minutes may not reveal the real problem. If this video helped you understand CVT transmission problems, tests, and possible solutions, subscribe to the channel because here we explain automotive diagnostics in a clear, technical, and direct way. And let me know in the comments what problem your CVT transmission has. Does it slip, vibrate, overheat, stop moving, or go into limp mode? I'll be reading your comments, and your case could become the topic of a future video.